I'm live. Here we are, everybody. How you doing? This is Kelly from Nerdgasmic Adventures. Hope you can hear me all right. Today is our second Nerdgasmic Live. Amazing that we get two of these in. Maybe we can do some more. Maybe I'll do this every week, except for when I'm traveling. We'll see. We'll see. I'm hoping for that. Anyway, welcome to Nerdgasmic Adventures. We are here for our second week, and today's topic is all about. Oh, hold on. Kelly's got to mute himself. Give me a second. That was great. That was fun. I had to turn my own volume down. It's the only way I can see the chat is if I have it on. So I got to figure this out. And that's just life. You got to figure things out. So, anyway, today we are talking about when is it the best time to travel? Or not to travel, to book travel. The best times to travel, that's another topic. We can talk about that a little bit. So, today, as a travel advisor, I get a lot of questions. When is the best time to travel? And, is it fall? Do we get better pricing at certain times? Flights, cruises, tours, tips for saving money, all that stuff is what we're talking about. And so I'm going to encourage you to drop a comment in the chat, kind of where you want to go next year and where you want to be. And I'll tell you the best time to book that travel. But not just that, I have other tips and tricks and things that I do. It's an encyclopedia. Keeping it all organized, not always easy. Not always easy to keep my brain organized. But if I write it down and I, lay a good foundation, I can get anything done. So, anyway, again, if you didn't know, this is Nerdgasmic Adventures. It's not. This is our chat, which is called our live stream, which is called Nerdgasmic Live. And again, I reiterate, this is not about live nerdgasms. You actually have to go see stuff to go, ooh, ah, that is amazing. You cannot be sitting in your living room to get the full effect. You've got to travel in order to do this. To have a real nerdgasm, you have to put your head on some history, on some really cool places. Your feet have to walk, you have to touch some grass, and you have to get out there. You can't be sitting on your couch all the time. You got to get out and do it. All right, let's get started. Um, One of the things I want to point out is you have to think of this in many different steps. So, flights, especially international flights, I've always encouraged everybody to start at the 11-month timeline because you can't book flights until you're 11 months out from the end of your trip, not the beginning, 11 months out from the end of your trip next year. The reason for this, the airlines won't sell it to you. But that doesn't mean it's a bad idea to look at 11 months as soon as they open to check the flights. I would say don't buy right away. You got to see how they're going to fluctuate, go up and down. You've got to pay attention. And if you don't want to do any of that, again, I will point out, talk to me. I do this all the time. I am checking flights all the time. I already know what flights look like for next year. I already know what the summer flight prices are. And depending on where you're from, I mean, that price could be really high or it could be a little high because summer flights are never low. You'll never see a summer flight at $600. You're not going to see it. Even if you're in Boston or New York and you have an easy flight to London, Dublin, Amsterdam, Zurich, anything like that, you are never going to see a $600 flight. You might luck out at 900. You really might luck out, but it takes somebody with patience. Yeah, you can click on the little bell. One of the things I've noticed about those little bells on the like Google Flights or Skyscanner or whatever you go look at, they are not always up to date. Sometimes I'll see it and it's not accurate. So, check yourself. And again, call me, give me a call, send me a chat, send me an email, anything like that. So they do say for flights international, go 6 to 8 months. I That's okay. I'm probably at 9 months out. Um, so domestic 3 to 4, although sometimes you can find a good deal within 30 to 42 days of flying. Actually, I have a good deal international for less than that, and I'll probably be using that. I'll probably be coming up with it. So cruises. Now, here's the thing. It depends on what kind of cruise you're talking about. If it's an ocean going cruise, about a year out is probably the best time to book because people are really starting to fill those cabins. They really are starting to fill the one that you want. They're about to take it. The river cruises, if you're going through Viking, you actually have to pay in full a year in advance. If it's Ammo or Avalon or some of the other ones, usually it's 90 days in advance to pay in full and you can make payments. But I wouldn't push it much within a year on river cruises to try to get a spot. I've been selling river cruises more than a year out because people know they're going to sell out. On the flip side, I've had people trying to buy river cruises 2 months out, and they little do they realize there may be nothing left. Now I could go into a booking engine and see, hey, there's this cabin or this cabin, but it's a lot of times it's not the cabin you're looking for. You want a cabin that you feel comfortable in. And sometimes they're just not there. Sometimes you'll be stuck on the bottom level with two windows. Now, when it's winter time or say it's fall and it's cold outside, who cares if you're on the bottom floor? The sun sets early and you're not going to see the view going by. But if it's the summertime, you want one of those panoramic window cabins. That is what you want. If you're going to skip that, if you're going to just miss out on that, which is highly probable if you don't book usually about a year out, you could miss out, especially if you have specific dates. If you're flexible, we can usually find it no problem. If you're not flexible, say you're like, listen, I only have 2 weeks at the beginning of June to take this vacation, well then you better book now. You're already running a little late to get what you want. So anyway, booking things 9 to 12 months out for tours and cruises. River cruises, you might even go 18 months out. It's not a problem. You're at least you got what you wanted, and usually the prices are really good when you book at that time. But if you're booking 6 months, within 6 months of traveling, you may not be able to find a single thing that you want for that time. Hotels. So say if you're just doing an independent tour, um, you hotels can be flexible. It depends on where you're going to. Hotels can be flexible. I like to book them at least 6 months out, if not 9 months out. Because sometimes I see a great price at 9 months out, and then when I check at 3 months out, the price is doubled for the hotel. You don't want to be in that position. You want to make sure that your hotels are booked far enough in advance that there's no problem. Now, that's not a promise there'll be no problem. I had booked hotels for clients who are in Portugal right now. I'd booked them 6 months ago, the hotel. Last week I got a phone call from Expedia, who I go through professionally. Um, I got a phone call from them or an email that said, "Hey, your hotel's not available." And I was a little furious, to be honest, because nobody should drop you 1 week before you're going on a trip. But two, all those hotel prices we were looking at 6 months ago would have skyrocketed in the price. But we were lucky. I got right on the ball and we got as quickly as possible an equivalent hotel and they accepted the price we had. So that we were lucky. That is like a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. You don't find stuff like that all the time. So you just gotta be careful. You just gotta be prepared. So if you book your flights or your hotels or things the night before, you're probably gonna wish you had a lottery ticket too, because at that position you're gonna pay top price because they know you're desperate and you're willing to pay it. If you're pretty willing to pay it because you really want to go, be smart. All it is, be smart. Don't try to be lucky. Be smart. Okay, so here's the thing. Costs for doing all these things are typically more expensive in the summer months. So if you're wanting to go on a tour or a cruise, all those things, their price goes up. Um, I've been pretty lucky because I can see the prices. I kind of know where they're at. But I'll tell you this: I sell a lot of river cruises. The river cruises are best in end of March, beginning of April to travel and go do, or October to the beginning of November. Those two times for river cruises are the best prices. And I know you're going to say, well, yeah, but I want the warm weather. I get it, but warm weather comes with a cost. Now, if say you're wanting to book for the Riviera, or well, let's be a little closer to home. Say you want to book an all-inclusive, an all-inclusive resort, and you're going to go to Dominican Republic. Well, some of those you can get in short order. But a lot of times, that's a great place to go in the off season because the same people you'd be fighting tours for in Europe, you'll be fighting. You'd be fighting for a resort in the summer, but it's still warm there in the fall. It's still warm there sometimes in, even February, November. It's still pretty warm. It's pretty nice. You can go to the beach and still get a bit of a tan. So going to all-inclusive resorts in the cold season, you're going to find some good prices and you'll get what you want that you were thinking you wanted in the summertime. Especially for those of you in the northern climates, you should be thinking, hey, February, don't go in March. That's spring break, and all those college students are going to fill every beach in the Caribbean or in Mexico. Don't do it in March. Go in February. It'll be quieter. It'll be more fun. You won't have a bunch of drunk 20 somethings. All right. So I would say, though, if you want to go to Europe and you want it to be a little warmer, you're going to need to go in the summer. You can go in May. You can go in September. That's pretty good. Although it does start to cool down a bit in September. It's not horrible. I mean, I was there last December. It was freezing pretty much all the time, maybe a little above it, 40 degrees in December. But for the most part, it does get cold. Europe is quite a bit north of us, really, unless you're on the Mediterranean. We actually, I'm in Arizona, and the part of that we're actually parallel to like Africa. You'd think Europe was at the same latitude, longitude. I always get them mixed up as we are, but no, they're more like Canada. So they have an ability to get really cold. They don't get as cold as Canada or Alaska, but they can get cold. Now, those of you wanting to go to Christmas markets, here's a thing for you, a little tip. So a lot of people say, well, I got to go in December. I'm going to feel more Christmassy. I want Christmassy type of things if I'm going to Christmas markets. Yeah, but they often start the Christmas market season, the last 10 days of November. And guess what? Those November dates to go are less expensive than the December dates. Now I get it. You want that holiday festive feeling. You're going to get it either way. Now in December, you're more likely, that's when you have better chance of it being snowy and frosty and kind of fun that fits the season. Depending on where you're at. If you're in Norway, well, you're already there in October. But if you're in, say, you're in, Austria, Vienna, you're in Vienna, it might still be a little warm-ish at the beginning of December. And warmish, I mean 50s in the daytime, or, it might get there. But in the middle of December, that's when the temperature's better for that. Listen, if you're going to book it for summer in Europe, you're going to book right now. September, October is the high season for booking at a good rate that's affordable. So book now if you're going to Europe. And I have a couple of tours coming up. Also, if you're going to book Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, yeah, that's a year in advance, and especially hotels at that point, because everybody wants to be somewhere cool for New Year's. They like the celebration. Now, I say everybody, it's not true, not everybody, but a lot of people, enough people to fill those hotels. So you better do it with, by the end of February. Next February, if you're like, hey, I want to see regular New Year 26, 27, well, start booking at New Year's of 26 or 25, 25, 26 to get your New Year's for 26, 27. And hotels. That is the number one, hotels. There are people who do cruising during that time. And yeah, even then, you probably need to do 10 to 12 months at least ahead of time because a lot of people want those Christmas cruises. I sold a Christmas cruise last February because they knew they wanted to be on during Christmas. And so, in order to be on during Christmas, they had to book then. It's all sold out, guaranteed, all sold out. Spring break, you again, another 9 months. You might want to do it 9 months early. So I would consider that off season, like say, February, January, February, say November, January, February, maybe even October is in that off season months. I would say, um, I would say that you would. It depends on what you're willing to spend. But I'm looking at a trip that I want to go on next month. That because the flights are so good and they're still good. Uh, British Airways has a sale and it's over tomorrow. And so here in Arizona, I can get a $600, $550 flight to London. That's a really great deal. And that's common. You could all go out there and find it. Or you can just say, hey, Kelly, just you book it. We'll go with you. Whatever. That 550 to London is close to the same price as you're going to pay to get to, well, I mean, it's still a little bit more, but to get to, say, Florida, it's, a lot of times flights in the U.S. are $400, $500. And even in what you would think is off season, they don't fluctuate as much. They're not as inexpensive because people in the U.S. are flying all the time within the U.S. So when you go to Europe, that's not the case. People from the U.S. aren't doing the they aren't doing that long flight usually in the winter. So you can usually find it in off season, good prices. Let's see. Yeah, you're right. Tina says sometimes 90 days out you can get a last minute deal on a cruise, but choice of cabins will be fewer than booking further out. And that's absolutely true. Sometimes it's hard to find. You know, sometimes it'll only be, an inside cabin that's left. All those balconies get sold out ahead of time. And I'm telling you, most of them are sold out 9 months ahead of time. Just because people want to go. You can get a last minute deal on a balcony. I'm not saying you can't, but it is possible. All right. Let's see. All right. So group travel. This is something I specialize in is group travel. I don't sell it a lot for suppliers. I do it more myself or for my clients, really, is for my clients. And I will put those together myself. You have got, if you're going to put together a trip that a bunch of you are going on, that you think you're going to do yourself, you better not start this 3 months in advance. As a matter of fact, you should probably start it the year before. I typically have my plans for the following summer group trips more than a year out, more than a year in advance. So I think, I think that what you need to think about is how am I getting all these people together? How am I going to find a place to book them in a hotel that far in advance? Now, here's the lucky thing. You got me. I know how to do this. I've done it multiple times. I've booked things 3 months out. I've booked things 6 months out. I've booked things a year out. So I do this all the time. It's in my wheelhouse. But most people who are thinking I can do this, they don't realize how many moving parts they're going to have to put together. I have a system I use and it works for me. I know exactly what I'm doing. I've taken many people on tours. So I know what I'm doing. Lean on me a little bit. And if you want me to book it, I do charge a nominal fee for these because you don't always get money out of the hotels and airlines. So I have to take a fee for that. It's just the cost of doing business, but I'll do it. I can put it all together. I can do pretty much anything. One thing I haven't done is destination weddings yet. Yet I have providers, suppliers that do this all the time, so I can at least put you in the right spot to book something like this. All right. So, say if you want to go on a bucket list trip on a safari, you may need a full year or even 18 months to book that because some of these are so popular that people know they have to book 2 years, 18 months in advance. So, Machu Picchu, sometimes it's hard to get into that um, without booking a year early. And the cherry blossoms in Japan are hugely popular, definitely a year out or you're not going to find a hotel. And trust me, Tokyo has tons of hotels. They still don't have enough hotels for everybody who would like to see the cherry blossoms. So consider that. Expedition cruises. You know, Atlas is one of the biggest expedition cruisers. That's the one I think of when I think expedition. There are some National Geographic ones, but I don't. I'm not knowledgeable. I can always find that out. But anyways, the expedition cruises, those things cost a pretty penny, and you have to book them far in advance, 18 months, because people do really want to go to Antarctica. They want to sail in there. They want uh, to take the kayak to the shore and touch some Antarctic snow. And those are the kinds of things you have to book very far in advance. All right. Um, Packages versus do it yourself. Um, a lot of times, if you're buying airfare through a supplier, say you're going to go on a Princess cruise and you're like, I'm just going to go with their airfare. Well, you know, there are good things to it and bad things to it. One is they're not, you can go online and you'll find an airfare for a couple $100 less expensive than what they're going to sell you on Princess or Carnival or Royal Caribbean or Virgin, whatever. And the reason is because they always include some extras in the flight, you know, like your transfers to the boat or what am I thinking? Oh, your luggage and seat selection sometimes all included. Well, it looks like it's more expensive, and that's great. But if you're like, hey, I want to save a little money, then you go through me. Just go through me. I can figure it out. I'll save you money. I could explain it all, but it's a lot. And so if you really want somebody who knows, you should get a travel advisor. I'm a travel advisor. I do a lot of that. I have friends who are travel advisors. I believe somebody who's on here, Tina, she's a travel advisor. And if you're close to her or around her area, then by all means, get a travel advisor. If you're booking a package through another company, it usually doesn't cost you anything extra to have this person who knows what they're doing help you and assist you in their area of expertise and in your amateurish ways. And it's no offense to you, you're just not doing this all the time. You might be thinking of this once a year. Travel advisors are doing this every day. They're in practice. It's kind of like when I was playing flag football and might have thought I could go play pro. I couldn't. I couldn't. I'd get squashed like a bug. So I leave that professional football to the greats, the people who are that athletic, not this slow guy. I was doing that when I was late 20s, early 30s. But I couldn't compete. I'm not that good. I don't practice. I'm not as fit as they are. You know, I'd have to exercise and exercise and exercise. Well, travel advisors are exercising this all the time to get you good deals. They're not, yes, they have to get paid, but they get paid by those companies. What they really want is you as a client who will come to them year after year because they're doing what's best for you. And so they know they can do that for you, and you have to trust them to do it. Now, yeah, shop a little bit, see if the prices are different. I think that's fair, that's healthy. But go with a travel advisor, they'll get your stuff, your trip organized really fast. All right. Another thing, these are some money saving tips. Take advantage of promos, free airfare offers, things like that. If you ever see those, take advantage of them. But sometimes they'll offer both a huge discount or free airfare. usually take the huge discount because it's worth a little bit more money than the airfare. Currency exchange. Whoo! I used to think you would just exchange it at the not well. One time I thought at the airport, never exchange at the airport. That's tip number one. Tip number two: do not ever go to an ATM that has WorldNet, Euronet. There's a few more now. They're all going to rip you off. Go to a national bank. It'll rip you off, but a little less. But the best tip of all right now on September 17th, 2026, the best tip for you is to get it here. Go to your bank, ask them for a certain amount. Of course, there's an exchange rate, just a little one. Your bank has the best rates. Go through them, exchange some money for some euros or some pounds or whatever the currency is in another country. But I guess number 1.1b, don't depend on cash all the time, but have some. Take your credit card. Your credit card will save you not every time. We had a lot of places in Croatia that required cash payment, which I hated. I don't want cash payment. I want to use my card. Anyways, but most places will take your card, and that is the way you put the money on your card while you're on the trip, take that card home, pay everything off the next month. It will be less money than trying to exchange it. Don't take cash out with your credit card. That's a big, huge mistake. I think we all know. All right. Flexible dates will save you money. That's true. If you're like, I need to go June 1st, July 1st, August 1st, well, guess what? You're going to pay the highest price. But if you go October 1st, November 1st, November 3rd, like October 22nd, you're going to save money. So being flexible with your dates, I know you with kids, you can't be flexible. But you without kids, you can be. Think about it because you will still have an amazing time. Some of my favorite vacations were when it was colder. Went up to Zermatt in Switzerland. The snow on, like gingerbread houses. And right above it was the Matterhorn. And when the lights went down, the place looked like a Thomas Kinkade painting. One of the best places ever, one of the best trips ever was going to Zermatt. It was amazing. Valerie says travel advisors make it so much easier. Too many things to keep track of. That's true. That's true. I agree. I agree with that. So, all right. Booking early locks in price protection with some suppliers. That's true. Most of them. I don't know any suppliers that change the price after the fact. And if they do, don't use them. If they change your price after the fact, now I say that and say this. Even if they change your price after the fact, you don't want to go with them. But if, say, the price change after the fact is because you booked an extra excursion, well, that's different. It's not a price change. That's an extra cost to do a service for a service like a tour, or say you wanted to add insurance later. That's not extra cost. That's you need insurance. By the way, you need insurance. Maybe we'll talk about that next week. And then, if they add a drink package or your Wi-Fi package, well, that's sure it's extra cost, but it's not added extra cost later. You just chose to take that service later. So don't blame the supplier on that stuff. But if they're like, hey, your cruise was $2,200, now it's $3,300 because, we sold out. Well, never trust anybody that does that because they could change your price at any time. Or when you're getting on the ship, they could say, hey, your price went up just now. I had a hotel in Italy that did this to me. And they didn't even tell me until after we had stayed there. I went there, paid for 30-some people to be in the hotel. Paid it all way in advance. I get there, we all stay at the hotel, and then we're off on our adventure. And a week later, I get an email from the hotel saying we didn't pay the whole cost. I was like, well, that's not all right. And so I will never use them. Even though they try to send me emails still, I will never even come close to using them again because they were trying to rip me off. It's a scam. Don't even do it. All right. More live stuff. Oh, Amy says AAA works for a good exchange instead of your bank. And for those of you who are in like oh gosh, why can't I think of the word? It's not a bank. It's a oh, jeez. Why can't I think of it? Well, this is 54 talking to you. I can't think of the name of the other thing. It's kind of like a club, and it's a banking club. I can't think of the word. Oh man. Well, that was awful. Okay, so anyway, um, a lot of those do not have credit union. Whew, it took me forever to get there. Credit unions will not always exchange for other currency. So if you're with a credit union and not a regular bank, then you may need to go to Triple A. That's a good one. Yeah, I see you guys yelling credit union. Oh my goodness, that's funny. All right. Well, I didn't see anybody say where they wanted to go next year. I'm gonna look down, look up, and some people want to go to the credit union. I don't know why. There's no money there. You guys know that. Anyway, I know that's not what you were saying. That's a joke. All right. Um, I think next week I'd like to hear from you guys in the comments what topic you would like me to cover next week. Today was all about timing, and I know a lot of it's similar, but if you're flexible, you will have flexible pricing. So that's one of the things why I covered that today is think about when you're traveling. If it's always in June, it's always going to be expensive. Um, all right. By the way, I'm going to say this before we sign off. We're almost right dead on time. I'm going to say this one thing before we go. You should have booked your trip already. You should have booked it. If you didn't book it already and it's for next summer, you're behind the eight ball. I have a couple tours coming up. Well, maybe just one, but it's possible there's three different possibilities for tours next summer. One of them is a sure thing. That's the Budapest, Vienna, Prague. It's 10 days from the 1st of June to the 11th. Then there may be a possible Italy tour that I may be taking. I had some people reach out to me, so I've got to look into some planning. There may be another tour to Italy. Yeah, I thought I almost said England. Anyways, to Italy. And then there might be an England trip starting July 1st. So if you're interested in any of these things, reach out to me and I will get you some more information. And all right. So this is the end of our live stream. I didn't quite make 35 minutes, but I'm still happy with it. This is Kelly from Nerdgasmic Adventures saying, stay adventured. Yeah. And no live nerdgasms until you get to that place. Yeah. Don't do that.